can fucking worship Satan all day long, and I could give a fuck at whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just don't be a dick. You know, like
Yeah.
that should be your politics. Don't be a dick.
Buzz babies.
All right, buzz babies, and welcome back to another episode of Blake's Buzz. I've got a returning guest. He's one of my favorite people, and not just because he writes awesome kaiju comics, he writes awesome all kinds of comics. Dave Dwonch is here. He's going to talk about a brand new Kickstarter called the AUTOMATON. I'm super stoked to talk about it because I got to read some of it, and it is kick-ass. Let's get him out here, folks. Dave Dwonch, what's up, baby? How you doing?
Buddy, how you doing, man?
I'm great. I miss you. I'm glad to have you back.
Man, Sunday morning energy. I don't know how you're doing this. You know, like I'm going to the Church of Coffee right now to try and get my energy
Fuel.
level back up.
I got you. I got the G Fuel. No, it's just that natural love of sequential storytelling, baby. It flows through my veins.
That's amazing. Yeah, I used to have that energy. Now I'm like, will someone please buy my books? Please, let's go. Come on.
As they should. They should
Well,
buy them.
We're doing it. I mean, this one, it was the Automaton's an interesting one. I've done some work at some of the other publishers, but this one I just kind of wanted to do it my way. It was like I want to do a hardcover. I want to jump right to the end and get to the perfect version of what I want. And I'm like, I'm just gonna kickstart this. I've been on a bunch of podcasts recently. Like my history with comics is long and interesting and somewhat, unique. And then, you look outwards and you're like, oh, not unique at all, working with publishers and some of the highs and lows of that. And like something like this, I just was like, I could do it all myself, and so like I've done a few Kickstarters here and there. And it's usually the books that I feel like I just want to keep for myself and then, give to the world at conventions usually, like I sell a ton of books at shows, but, and then, there's the whole, oh man, now I got to do a lot of fucking shows, So now I'm like, I was doing like 16 shows a year and now I'm like 6, that's all, but that's because I just don't have your energy, Blake.
Well, I mean, if I was doing like physical shows all the time, I mean, it's someone did say the other day, I don't think people realize, and cons are this times like 5,000, right? But like it is physically draining to like the high energy. Like if I if I could do 3 interviews a day and crank out daily content, right, it'd be great for the channel.
Yeah.
But like I can't do that. Like that's insane. Like that's and cons are very much like that's like an all-day thing, 3-4 days in a row. You got to be on it with fans, on it with publishers. You might be doing panels, you might be doing signings, you might be doing events, and it's just like, dude, you're doing six shows a year is like 1,800 interviews. I don't even know, man. That's
well, yeah, and that's like literally why I used to table at San Diego every year, and it was like 5 days or whatever, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, 5 days. And like, I swear, it's just by the end of it, you're drained. Like some of these smaller shows, like I get super inspired and I come home like floating on a cloud. Like I'm floating on a cloud of shit coming out of San Diego, man. I'm just like tired and just done. And so, and like,
are you going? Are you getting ready? Like, what is it? A week or 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah, but I stopped tabling like 3 years ago. I basically I got stuck in Portugal. Like they just kept pushing our flights back, and I think it was just like the world was realigning out of COVID, and so everything was like still fucked. So like they pushed it back a day, and then they pushed it back a day, and I'm like, you know what? Even if I get home to Colorado and reroute my flights, I'm like coming in on Saturday. I'm like, you know what? Not worth it. So I gave my table to my buddy Jason Martin. I just said spread out, but because we were always neighbors, and like last year I just went and walked around, and that in itself it's more tiring than actually being at a table, because that stop go that you get in large crowds, it just beats your body up. So I just go and I hang out. I take people to breakfast. We have meetings outside of the convention. I walk around the convention for just like an hour or two a day. Maybe I'll be on a panel or two. And then, it's just a party, which is exactly, me, that's exactly like the sweet spot for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great. Yeah. So we're gearing up for it. It's in a couple weeks, but we've got Denver Comic Con coming up this next week. It starts on the 4th of July and then goes through
Mm.
the entire weekend. So that's going to be a nightmare. But at least I don't have to travel for it. I'm here in Denver, you
Yeah,
know.
you're there. That's cool. I'm gonna tell a story and then we're gonna talk about your comic. But I haven't told this story yet. I mean I've told like friends, but I haven't like talked about this on a show. So first day of the last Planet Comic Con, I got my brand new 4K camera, right? Like I got IDW like worked with me to get a little deal with Jason Aaron, and that was part of the deal. I was like, hey, I'll do a 4K interview with Jason Aaron, you know, and they like set all this stuff up. And you know, some of the some people I'd talked to already, and so I had like a lot of good interviews lined up. Dude, I bring a mixer, I bring wireless mics, I got my 4K camera, I got gear out the
And
ass,
tell me you
dude.
canceled the show. Tell me you didn't show up.
No, they didn't cancel, but like I get there and I got this like recording studio in my backpack, and like by the end of the first day is winding down, and I'm hurting, Dave. Like my back is, it's like I brought too much stuff, and my shoulder, everything is sore, and like, dude, I'm walking almost bow-legged, like someone just railed me in the bathroom, dude. Like it's just bad. I want like, but there were like all these panels, right? So there was like a Jason Aaron panel, Chris Claremont panel, all this stuff at the end. So it was like perfect. I was like, oh, I'll go park and take notes and stuff for the panels, right? So I go like I'm sitting in the panels. I got some edibles, right? And so like I eat a couple. I'm done. We're done, right? I'm in sit take note mode. So I eat a couple edibles, and they weren't like, they were like 20s, right? And so like I ate a couple more, and then like I was like, oh, okay. And then they started kidding, and then Jason Aaron, I remember Jason Aaron comes walking in, and this is when I realized that like I was a little lit. And I was like, cowabunga, baby. Like I just yelled at him. And he looks at me like, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
eh.
Yeah, you gave him that intro energy is what you did.
I did. He wasn't ready for it. And then so that him and they do this panel with Doug Monkey, and they do like their Batman panel. And at the end of the panel, I'm sitting there because there's one more after him, and like all my stuff, my recording stuff set out, my notes, my journal, my bag, you know. And so it's like I'm there, I'm parked. They all stand around me and they're like having a conversation with people.
Oh no.
Dave, I'm lit. And
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, that's never
do
good,
I
dude.
get up and leave? And then, but I got like all my stuff, and I was like, I gotta pack. And like, I was like, what? I didn't know what to do. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I literally got to that point. I was like, what do I do with my hands? I was like, oh no. And I was like, will Jason Aaron just fucking leave? And like, who thinks that as press at a con? Anyways, I was pretty normal, and he left, and then we still did our interview, and he didn't hate me. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was
those
my
are
exhausted con experience.
you were nearing cautionary tale there for a hot second. Like when you said 20s, like like I did a show in Canada once and I was like, oh, edibles delivered? Hell yeah. And they were like 25 milligram like gummies, right? And there was a 10 pack, and I'm like, you know, here in Colorado, it's like 10 milligrams tops and 100
Okay.
milligrams per bag or whatever. Um, but I was like, oh, cool. So I opened them, and like they were like little bunnies, so they had like little ears and shit. So I was just like nibbling on ears. And then like I ate one and I started writing, and I was writing. I was like, oh, this feels real good. And then I popped another one. And then I was all, oh no, everything is like Technicolor magic now. Like I can't even do this. So like I'm like a real casual pothead. But yeah, I mean mostly booze. You know, I work in the booze
Yeah.
industry, so that's kind of like my bread and butter. And then my jelly is the edibles. But yeah, that was rough. But yeah, when it last year when I did San Diego, I was sleeping on a couch because it was like last minute, hey, let me just crash on the couch. And I tore an abdominal muscle while I was in San Diego. Like, and I talked to my doctor, and I was like, dude, I can barely walk. What the hell's going on? When I got back, I started working out again, and I really got made it worse, and I couldn't walk. And he was like, yeah, what did you do? And I was like, I slept on a couch. And he's like, that'll do it. If your body is constantly trying to adjust for a dip in a couch or something like that,
Mm.
you're like basically doing yoga for 9 hours straight, trying to subconsciously adjusting. So like I ripped a muscle in my stomach
Oh,
and then had to do the con walking around. So like last year, I was literally in vacation mode. I was like, I am going to do nothing but like hang out and drink because I'm in pain, you know. Um, So yeah, every con's different, man. But San Diego and New York are just the beasts. I can only
Yeah.
do one of those a year, man. Like, yeah, it drives me crazy.
I hear it's harder and harder to get into New York year from
Yeah, that's
year.
what
It's
people are saying.
no matter like who you are. Like
Well, I'm gonna go next year and get a table. Like I feel like I need to get back into the big two game, like either that or just go and hang out and talk to editors and stuff, which
yeah.
I feel like as a pro, you gotta like you're in two modes as a pro. You're either like, God, I gotta make money, or God, I gotta make connections. And you could do both, but I think to do one or the other effectively, you gotta pick a lane. So like either I'm gonna have a table or I'm not gonna have a table. Because not having a table means I can take meetings all day long. You know,
Okay.
I can leave. I can meet someone outside of the clusterfuck and have a good conversation. Whereas you have a table, you're on a tight schedule because you're there to like literally just make money and hustle.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, and that like if I had an assistant or something, that'd be great, right? That's probably the best of both worlds. But yeah, really not my thing anymore, man. Doing these conventions, it's rough. It's rough.
Because I want to do more, right? And
You're
so
a
like that's
spring chicken with all that fucking energy, though, dude. We've already established this.
but that is the like that's what I've got to do Planet and Planet's pretty big. Like it's getting bigger. They're doing more.
Is that Kansas City?
Yeah, that's the one in
Yeah.
Kansas City.
Okay.
And so like that I've done press for that 2 years in a row, and so that's pretty cool. And I'm trying next year. I'd like to do some panels and stuff because like some of the local podcasters were like hosting panels, and I was like, have you motherfuckers like heard of Blake's Buzz? Like, come on. Anyway, but that's another story. What we're here to talk about, folks, is not cons, not edibles, but comics. Dave Dwonch makes some great ones. All right. And dude, I am really into the not autobiography of Walt Disney. No, I'm kidding. I know it's different, and I know he wasn't like a secret robot, but like there's some cool parallels, and I love the story. I love the art. Where let's get into it, man. We were on the con talk. Let's pretend we're at one. I stumble across your table. Maybe I'm a 20 deep or two, and I see this beautiful hardcover on
You're like so
display.
many colors. It's so colorful.
What's this about, David? What pitch it to me? What is this
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. So the Automaton is about a character named Felix Fable, who is basically like a Walt Disney media mogul, inventor, animator, just a genius, right? Just sort of like Walt, with just a person with a huge vision. And at the 25th anniversary of his theme park, he's up in the tower and he's about to give a speech, and we don't know what that speech is, but he winds up falling from that tower and dying. And clearly from our point of view, we know he's been pushed out of the castle, but other people don't know that. But regardless, like his engineers take his body down into the hidden tunnels underneath Fableville, which is kind of like my Disneyland, and they put his consciousness inside a robot body that they had been working on previously, and for reasons that I don't want to really reveal yet, they mothball it. But the trick is they also know that this thing can only power the human brain for like 36 hours, right? There is no battery in the world big enough to power a human brain. Something that I may have been an edible down when I was watching Kyrgyzstan, and was watching the transference episode where they're talking about how we might be able to get a brain transferred into an inanimate object. And I was just like, wow, that's really cool and impossible. But it's comics, and nothing's impossible in comics. So
It's true.
I just kind of took that idea and the my insane love for all weird Disney shit, and threw it into a murder mystery, like a who done it, where this Walt Disney-esque character has to solve his own murder before he fades away, right? Along the way, he befriends a caricature artist in the park who is her life is not even loosely, it is basically based on my life. And I threw that in there, and then I always got shit for wanting to be a comic book creator because I also I'm like 50-50 right brain, left brain. So my parents really wanted me to be an engineer. They didn't want me to be a comic book artist. So I kind of took a lot of the things that happened to me as a kid growing up and threw it up against this book, and kind of humanized it. And then kind of secondarily, my my uncle, who was like a closeted gay back in the 80s, like looking back, you're like clearly gay, like the short shorts, the tank tops, the mustache, the Freddie mustache, the guys that
He was
were
giving
always
signs.
around. Yeah, yeah. But he was always my favorite uncle. And, just the most joyous human being I've ever been around. And he wound up passing away of HIV in the early 90s. And it super duper affected me because I came from like an Italian family and we weren't, I'm half Asian, half Italian. But the Italian side, which my Uncle Joe was a part of, he he was sort of demonized at the end, like I mean, this guy's dead, and my dad, who was his best friend, was like, well, he made his fucking choices, and now he's dead. That's his thing. And I was just like, that is the worst way to look at it ever. And yet I kind of, I knew my dad was like grieving and whatnot, but I kind of took that and I said, well, he lived the life he wanted to live, and he lived it till the very end, and he was just like, he gave joy to so many people. So like Felix Fable is sort of based on my uncle. And so there's just a lot of stuff going on in this book. And I told my wife that I've done a lot of books over the years, and a lot of really, really good, fantasy action books and stuff that have heart to it. But the books that I know, and I'm not going to call out the books that I've done, that I've either done because I thought, oh, this idea can make money, or oh, this is going to resonate with people, or oh, like I was doing books with the expectation that they would be crowd pleasers. And there's nothing worse than coming into a scenario thinking something's going to be hugely popular and then it fails, but you didn't put as much heart into it as you would something like the Automaton, right? Like the Automaton, I feel, is like one of those rare books that, for me at least, that is going to strike a chord with people, and it means so much to me, like Cyrus Perkins is one of those books, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of books in between there that I think, Infinite Seven's a really good example of that, where I loved the idea so much that I had to do it, and I put as much heart into it as possible, but at the end of the day, that book doesn't speak to me. um and so it, just inherently means less to me. And I don't love that feeling. I want every book that I do, at least from here on out. And I want to say that sounds like I shat out a lot of books. That's not true, but there have been some mistakes along the way. And I think that the biggest mistake that any creator can make is to just make something to make it. I think you got to make it and feel the love and the craft that goes into it. And it's got to feel like it's got to pull at my heartstrings. So I know that you are like I think you are the first person that I just sent you the link to all the entire thing, because I wanted you to see where I was going to go with it. Because I know you were able to read like probably 1 through 3.
And I am excited to finish it because yeah, this is good, and it does. I was surprised because your last Kickstarter was a like IP work. You did like a video, you did a video game adaptation, right? The
Yeah, I did Astroneer for Titan. Yeah.
Astroneer, yeah. And like that was an all ages book too, and it was like I interviewed you when that came out. Like I had fun reading that, and it was it was for like it was a cool like mesh and mix of like that video game world, bringing it to comics. It was cool. When I went in like knowing that this was like an all ages title, it doesn't really necessarily read like an all ages title. It reads
Uh,
like a very cool comic. Okay, all of us, I don't know who grew up, you know, I'm getting close to 40, right? So like around this age bracket, I don't know who within around our age groups would not recognize that castle, that vibe, that grew up with that as part of their
yeah.
childhood. That's so universal, that thread. And the way you're playing with it, and the cool kind of the sci-fi twist, and the alternate like history, the blending it into the murder mystery, the characters are so great, right? Yeah, it's a great book. So I'm super like it's a great Kickstarter, folks, and you're gonna get this whole thing, this like beautiful hardcover package. Dave makes great books, he really does. Like, but as you mentioned, you are, I forget you draw sometimes because you do variants sometimes for your own stuff, but you're a great
Yeah.
letterer, you're a great designer. So I mean, you make really cool books when you do these Kickstarters and when you are in control of like all the elements. And so I'm stoked to see like because I think this the first hardcover you've like done and designed.
No, I did all the design work and packaging on the Vamplet series I did. which was that plushie line that Gail Middleton had created. She was the master designer, or one of the three master designers. They call them the Holy Trinity of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. When they relaunched it and they were relaunching the toys, Gail was one of the three designers for the toy line, and she had her own plushie line called Vamplets, which was these little baby vampires, super cute, really popular. One day I was at the San Diego Comic-Con. I was just walking around and I saw this graveyard and I was like, holy shit. It was like spring loaded with these little like monsters, little baby monsters jumping out. I was like, whatever the fuck this is, I need to be a part of this, right? So I huddled up to Gail and I was like, can I take you to dinner? You can meet my business partner, I'll meet your business partner. And at the time, like those guys got along great. And business types are real unique, and creative types are real unique, and very rarely do they work, and very rarely do they work for a long period of time together, because it's always like a fight between money and creativity. Regardless, we convinced the Vamplets people to let us create the graphic novel series. So I wound up taking a lot of Gail's ideas. She had never written a comic. And then I wrote the story for Vamplets, the first 3 volumes. And then I did all the design work on it. The colorist on the book was my roommate at the time. And so it felt like a creator-owned project, but I didn't have to worry about me spending all the money to make it. So I just went for it,
Nice.
and it turned out to be a really good foray into book design for me. And so when I was building the book for the Automaton, I really wanted it to look like it should sit on the shelf with those books. So a lot of the design elements are very similar. It's almost like you brand yourself with your own book designs. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about. They think, oh, I gotta have a splashy cover or whatever it is. Like sometimes I'll go design over splash any day of the year, because at the end of the day, I want that book to look like something that you want to keep, you know.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to anything, that the big two do, but I that running and jumping cover towards you, how many times can you see that before you're like, oh, it's basically the same cover,
Mm-hmm.
So I like a really like designed, really thought out layouts and stuff, and things that like tie in. Like when I was designing the automaton, I wanted the entire book to feel like you could find it at a gift shop at a Disneyland. So like everything about it is reminiscent of things that you grew up with and love. It's kind of like what you were saying. You've been in those parks, the castles and all that good stuff. But like even the Kickstarter itself, like I wanted it to feel like a fairy tale. So if you go to the Kickstarter and look at it, you're like, oh, it looks like a fairy tale. You look at the reward tiers and you're like, everything looks like it's part of the Mickey Mouse Club. Like the stretch goals that I have that I've been kind of chatting up. I haven't released any images for it yet, but like the first stretch goal is literally a ticket to get into the park, and it comes with a button that says first visit, so you feel like you're literally entering the park the minute that you open the book itself. Like I haven't shared the inside front cover, but it's a marquee that you get to write your own name in, like this book belongs to. So
Oh,
it's got this
dope.
whole like child's element vibe, but the story like is just fucking cool. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I think you hit on something like where you're like, you say it's all ages, but it doesn't feel like an all ages book. Like I feel like that's the best thing. That's the best. Thank you for that compliment, because that's the best way to write an all ages book. Like
Okay.
you don't want to talk down to your readership. Like I my first experience with comics was reading on my dad's lap and my uncle's lap. We would read comics together, rest in peace, uncle. But you inspired me to want to give that experience to everyone that has a kid. But if you don't have kids, I want you to be able to read it and it take you back to a certain point in your life. The best books that I've written, I can look back at 5 years later and read myself and be like, who the fuck wrote this? What sensitive bastard wrote this book? Like, if I can make myself cry, I am feeling pretty good about a book. And it's very rare that that happens. And it's only happened twice. And it happened last night because so first time Cyrus Perkins, easy. It's such a good book. And I've had many people tell me that they've been brought to tears by that book, which fuck yeah. Awesome.
It's a
You know what I
good
mean?
book.
Job done. Job done. Give me a raise. right? With the automaton, I finished lettering it last night. That's why you got it this morning in your inbox. But
Nice.
I finished lettering the fourth chapter, and I was reading through the entire book, and I was piecing together things I did in the first act to the third act to the fourth act, callbacks, things that make the package. And then there was like one scene in there where I got like choked up, and I'm sitting on the couch. My wife is like doing something else, and I start like sniffling, and she's like, "Do you have a cold?" And I'm like, "No, no." And you know, for something that I literally wrote maybe 6 months ago, to bring me to an emotion, again, I feel like job done. And again, I don't, it doesn't happen very often. And I don't, this is not me sucking my own dick. I just, like, seriously, I'm like, who wrote this? They used to call me DJ Sensitive Dave, because I'd be like, "Oh, let me put the music on. Hey, ladies," and I'd be like, "Tell me all about your feelings." Like I'm that guy that cares about people in that way. I
Yeah.
may try to be smooth and like, I'm like sensitive Lando Calrissian or something, but if I can make myself feel that way, I know that this book's going to hit for people. I may not have the biggest audience. That's not, it's about reaching one person,
Mm.
and then word spreads from there. Like Cyrus Perkins was not a hit when it came out. Cyrus Perkins is my biggest book to date because of the years I've done slinging it at conventions. Um, I have like, every time I see a 3-day pass on a kid and they buy that book, they buy it on a Friday, I say, read it before the end of the weekend and come back and tell me what you think. And I video recorded reviews of children
It's so
uh,
cool.
crying their eyeballs out at Cyrus Perkins, just like, and then this happened at the end, and I'm like, are you happy? And they're like, so happy, right? Like, I want that feeling because it's a dark book, and like, you deal with murder in an all ages book. That could go. You could really quickly pull yourself out of all ages territory. But I
Yeah.
also, while I have, because there's no definition for it, I have to say it's an all ages book. It's appropriate for all ages. But when people say all ages, they think kid book. When you hear YA, you think it's going to be a quasi-violent romance set in a maze somewhere. You know what I mean? Like Hunger Games or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what people think as YA. I think that I think that labeling things can be very limiting, and it may change people's perceptions. So when I say all ages, I mean you will be able to read this by yourself and enjoy it, or you might be the cool uncle that wants to share it with the kid, but you'll be able to know that you can share it with the kid without, your brother or your sister being like, what the fuck did you just do to my kid? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so that's, because like Wolverine #1 is like the first book I ever read with my dad on his lap. I don't think that was appropriate, you
Mm.
know? Did it inform my weird brain? Sure. But like, I want to create a safe space, but I also want to create a space that pushes the idea that all ages can be for all ages.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I love that. And yeah, it's just I'm a big fan of you. I've been a big fan of your writing and stuff for a long time. And so yeah, like fans of your work are they're gonna have a lot to love here. I'm hoping like the new people find you on this too, because it's different and it's bright and it's a very unique whodunit story, I think. And I do agree. Yeah, like your Kickstarter page is super gorgeous. Yeah, that's what I do for my day job now at Metal Ninja Studios. Like we do a lot of Kickstarter work for people, but we do a lot of like we do we're a production company, right? So those inside cover designs, those like that stuff, like I'm not the designer, like I'm proofing it. I talk to the clients and tell the designers what to do, and like, but I see the importance of that stuff now. I see how much it changes a book. Like a lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize like, oh, like a really fucking solid like title page that just is like slick and like has all the information, like a lot of people are gonna turn past it, but also there's like a little part of your brain that's like, we're in a good space. You see
Yeah.
that right on the bat, and you're like, okay, like, yeah, it's not some like weird, shitty done MS Paint, like that stuff is important, and it's really important too, especially for you got to stick out on Kickstarter right now. You really have to. We talked about that on an interview with some people the other night. Is the not that people were lazy on Kickstarter, but there were some projects where it's like, okay, this is just definitely someone's first comic, and maybe they lettered it themselves or with a computer software that they thought looked okay, but really what wasn't, like, and so we talked about how, like, because of how active the platform is, the things you have to do to stick out. A good looking Kickstarter page is one, nice looking logos, nice looking images, good art, right? A good selection of art to see, which I thought your page was very generous of. You have a whole graphic novel, right? Which so you got a little more to share, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's the difference too. I'll tell you what though, like I hate the anxiety that I don't hate Kickstarters. I was about to say that, but I hate the anxiety that comes with them. And it's like watching water boil over 30 fucking days. 30 days of you being like, is this gonna work? And currently as of this recording, we're at like 60%. We've got like 18 days or 19 days or something like that. I think it's pretty good, right?
mhm,
But this is one of those projects that I'm like, this is going to speak to people and it should fund in the first week,
mhm,
you know, and that didn't happen. And so now I'm like, did I do something wrong? Is there something about the project that people aren't really like expressly looking for? Why? What is the deal with this? And I think that honestly, if I keep making sleepers like Cyrus Perkins, and then 10 years later, people come back to me and they're like, that was the book, Vamplets. I get people come up to me all day with Vamplets saying that I was their childhood. Like, success isn't, it's going to fund. I'm not worried about that. But I would love for people to spread the word so that we can get those stretch goals made, because that's part of the experience. And I think what I need to do is make another video that just says, hey, look, this is what I'm planning on doing. Spread the word, because we're not just doing a comic. This is like, what I want is an experience. What I want is for people to come out of it feeling like they were there in a way.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean, what's going to be a hit, you know, as long as you know that you did your best at the time that you did it, like you said, those people that like, that they lettered it, and you spoke to that, and I thought, well, any one element can derail a project.
mhm,
It could be the concept could be strong or weak. The dialogue could be natural or unnatural. The coloring could be straight up good or bad,
mhm,
or not conceived for that project. You could have the best coloring in the world, but if it doesn't fit the project, like Mike Mignola, Hellboy, very flat colors, very thoughtful, well chosen colors. If you got someone that just colors a regular DC book to color it like a regular DC book, it's gonna look like trash,
mhm,
because it doesn't need rendering. It doesn't need any of that. It's Hellboy.
yeah,
Um, so coloring, lettering's a huge one. That, like, if you have bad lettering, it could take you out of the experience, completely out of the experience. So I'm like a real big lettering nerd. Like, I do not want my lettering to detract from my story. But I always letter my own stuff, because sometimes you get pages back and the artist didn't do exactly what you had written in the script, or sometimes the art's better than what was in the script. And now I've got to redo that line because the line doesn't land as hot as I wanted it to.
yeah,
So, like, a lot of what I was doing yesterday while I was finishing up lettering was rewriting some stuff, right? Um, yeah, sometimes I'll come up with something mid lettering and be like, wait a second, that changes everything. This changes the dynamic of the scene if I change this dialogue, right? So while I don't always subscribe to last minute changes here and there, when I'm lettering my own stuff, I have the luxury of being able to move word balloons around, right?
mhm,
If I had a letterer, they were probably just going to follow the notes and not do any of that, right? So, like, why would I not do it myself if I had the ability to do it?
yeah. And
Um,
you are good. You're a good letterer. You can always kind of critique yourself and nitpick it. And I asked you if you struggled with that, like during editing, during like final proof, because eventually you got to get to a point where you got to realize what's maybe it's not perfect, but for what you need it to be is good enough, right? And I don't want that to sound lazy either, but you could always eventually it's got to go to print one day, right? Like you can't just
yeah,
you
well,
can't keep changing and changing and changing.
like the book I did with Actioneer, it was the video game publisher hired me to write the book. And so like they were extremely particular about how that book needed to go to market. So they had eyeballs all over it. And I was like, perfect. Tell me what I need to change so I don't have to go through and comb through it, right? Like I thought the Automaton number one that by the way, anyone that wants to check out the Kickstarter, if you are a backer or even if you're not, you can go into one of my updates and check out the first issue for free. Like I want people to be able to read it and say, yeah, this is something I think my kid would want, or yeah, this is something I want, right? So it's available there. And I think the luxury of like I have a pretty good day job. So this Kickstarter isn't covering production cost. This Kickstarter is covering the budget on a hardcover.
Okay.
Where I'm getting it printed, this is the amount it's going to cost, right? So I'm not even asking for like production costs. I'm just looking to get the book made, right? But because I have a pretty decent job, I was able to produce the book independently, quietly over the last like year and a half, right?
Hmm.
So like that there is no worry there, but it's been in a bubble for a long time, right? So like I want people to see the goods.
Yeah.
So yeah, first chapter is available. Um,
Dude, that's rad. And I also think that that's really smart because it's the first chapter is so good. Oh my God. Like I read a lot of different shit. I go cape stuff. I go horror. I go sci-fi. I love manga, right? And you know, this, a lot of this saying to me and in ways that had nothing to do with you, Dave, like nothing to do with like my love of you and Jenny and like everything that, or, you know, like your background and your writing. Like if this was just a book I found, you know, it was like, oh, whoa, like a murder mystery in Disneyland with a sci-fi spin. Like, dude, that's singing like that nerdy, that catchy nerdy tune that like I'm ready to like snap and skip to walking down the street, baby. Like, so yeah, like that's smart. Go read that first issue because yeah, you're gonna want more. You're gonna want to know you're gonna want to know who or what did this, and what sinister minds are behind the plot. You know, there's a lot of good questions brewing already that I'm excited to see wrapped up. And like I said, like nice hardcover. It's gonna be shelf worthy, right? You're already nerding out over how it's gonna look, how you want it to look. This is gonna be a cool book, I guarantee it. And so yeah, I
Yeah, I'm
give it a
I'm
shot,
really
folks.
excited, really excited for it. And I think that, at the very least, I say it all the time. There's like five levels of success, right? And the first level of success is just fucking doing it. Just go and do it, right?
Hmm.
Um, and job done. Job two is getting one person to react to it, good or bad. I like
Hmm.
bad personally because it means that I did something so egregious that it drove someone to emotion to be like, fuck you, I hate it. And then then I get to think, whoa, did I really do something wrong, or is this their taste, or what's going on here? So I love like getting that response so I can then look within and figure out if there's something I need to change about something. Or if that person's just fucking insane. And for the most part it's 50-50. But like getting a publisher is like not even I mean, yeah, it's success, but getting it out there in the market in some way is three, and then four is getting a wider audience, right? And then
Hmm.
five is fortune and glory, right? So like a lot of people get into this business just thinking, oh, I'm going to make something and fortune and glory is going to happen, but you've got to like toil away at it. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like it's not the biggest overnight successes are it take 20 years. You
yeah.
know, so it's like, and I've been in this for like 20 years, and I've seen some success. I've seen enough success to travel the world and experience people's reactions to my work. And that is like the most gratifying thing that you could ever have. Um, I don't need fortune and glory on this. I just want to put something really good out there for people. And I really want to do books that bring us up. There's so much in the world, and I'm not going to get into any of it, but there's so many things detracting us from happiness. And you know me, I'm a pretty upbeat dude, and
Yeah,
I'm like, let's just push that forward. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I don't need to believe in everything everyone believes, or that, I don't need to be aligned with other people's beliefs all day long every day.
Mhm.
to feel a sense of community. I think community comes from talking and sharing and experiencing or building experiences for people. And that is Felix Fable in a nutshell. And that was my uncle in a nutshell. And that's me in a nutshell, right? So like if I can do that, job done. Now, I don't want to go homeless doing it. You know what I mean? And my wife is the first person to be like, yeah, maybe you should just do one book a year instead of four because you're a nut, And I'm like, but so many ideas, man. And
Yeah.
so I think in that regard, Kickstarter can be helpful. You know what I mean? If you've got so many ideas and not a budget for it,
Mhm.
but again, I think I'm being more selective in my old age too. Like I'm only going to put out these style books, really.
But it's
No, it
still
was
faster to produce this. Like, if you can afford to pay, and what you do, you pay your artists and stuff, right? But like, if you can afford to get the art done and do all this, like the expediency that you can like get a book done, sent to print and shipped through Kick by doing it yourself through crowdfunding, as opposed to like pitching, getting it at a publisher. It sits at the publisher for a while, then it gets put out. Hopefully, it gets put. Like we've seen times where stuff doesn't even get put out, right? Like, or gets buried. And so like, the fact, even a year and a half, or how, like 2 years, what, like that's still like fast to do a book, get it done, get it out, get it done, put it out yourself, production's done. Like that's impressive.
Well, yeah, like for us, like there's a variant cover. It's called the Little Golden Boys edition, which looks like an old Golden book. It's got the little like yellow foiled stripe around the spine, and it looks like one of those like kid books that I grew up with. But the Little Golden Boys are me, brown, Asian, Italian, and then my artist Santi, who is Argentinian, and he's brown, and then I've got Ronaldo, who's the colorist, who's in Puerto Rico. So I was just like, you know what? We're not quite a studio, but every time we do a book, I'm going to probably do a variant where it's the Little Golden Boys version,
Nice.
because I've been working with these guys for like 10 years. Like
Yeah, you
Ronaldo,
guys have you've squatted up with these guys several times now. Like the
yeah.
vibes are good, the chemistry's there, and you guys do great. I love the work. You guys do amazing work together. Like
Well,
Spores is so dope. Like I'm stoked.
Santi's rad in that, like, we're working on the Prom of the Dead and Broken Circle, and then I wrote myself into a corner and was like, shit, I really got to think about what I'm doing here before I finish this third volume. Never tell. Here's writers 101. Don't call it a trilogy if you don't know what the third act is. Because you like I was like, oh, I know exactly where one and two are going, and then I'm like, oh no, I've got too much story here for it to be one volume in the third. And then it was like, how do you edit down all of the ideas that make this thing unique? And I got stuck. I was like, I don't know how to distance myself enough to make these edits, and I don't know how to make it personal enough to care if I do that. And
You could do the Marvel side deal. You could do like 3.1, 3.2, 3.3.
well, then you got your budget, and then it's like, I don't know if I
That's
can do
true.
that,
That's yeah.
right?
Like
So it's like so I figured it out, but like in the process of figuring it out, I was writing the automaton, and I still haven't written the third volume. Like it's there, and I know exactly where it's going to start. I just don't know. I mean, I don't need it to be a bloodbath for the sake of it being a bloodbath. It's a horror book. I get it, but um yeah, I just don't know where I want to land on that tonally yet, and that's what's holding me up. But in the meantime, I was writing the automaton, and Santi had finished Broken Circle, and he was like, I need another gig. What do you got? And I'm like, well, I got this thing, but I don't think you're right for it. Like your art, it's fairly realistic, and I described this to him. I said, like, I want it to be a YA murder mystery or an all ages murder mystery set in a Disneyland style theme park, drawn like it's a Pixar movie. And so he took the idea of that, and so he started looking at concept art for Pixar movies, and they all kind of have this weird deco. The lines, French expressionist, cartoonist stuff. That lines don't connect. Everything's kind of wide open. It's gestural more than it's tight. And his stuff was really really tight. And he started sending me sketches, and I'm like, oh my god, he's got it. He did it. I don't know how this guy can do this, but he can change styles like on the fly.
whoa.
Um, and so I was like, okay, cool. You're hired. There was a designer that I had found that was working on design work and some layouts and stuff, and it just wasn't quite what I was looking for, because it's got to look like a Disney thing filtered through a Pixar lens. And the designs were solid, but they just weren't quite there. We did use a bunch of like maps that we had designed and drawn together, and that all that stuff should make it into the hardcover and the extra stuff, right? But yeah, I mean, Santi has just been like my partner for a long time, but I had never met him. That was the point. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, 6 months ago, I was like, "Hey, bro, why don't you meet me at MegaCon in Florida, and we can go to Disney World and get some more reference and tighten this book up a little bit, and like hang out for the first time." And he's like, "Well, I've never been to America, but my brother moved to Orlando, so I can stay with him. I can go to the con. We can go to the Disney World." We wound up doing all that shit, but like the first day we met, I'm waiting for his like shuttle bus to arrive, and we're texting. He gets off the bus, and it's like 90 Day Fiance, where I run up to him and I just give him the biggest fucking hug, and we're like holding each other for a little too long. And I start talking to him, and I realize that he doesn't speak English. And I'm like, oh shit, we've been communicating for 10 years on email, text, and stuff. And he's sending it through the Google Translate and responding to me.
Oh, wow.
And so when he takes my script, he gets my script, he uploads it into Translate, and then it gives him the Spanish version. And that's how he works. So I'm like, oh my God, are we even going to get along? Like, how is this going to work? So the whole weekend we're talking through this translator. And it turns out that we have a lot in common.
Oh, cool.
We by the end of the weekend, we're brothers, and we'll always work together as often as possible. And now, he doesn't feel this, but I feel this, that I have a responsibility to create things for Santi to draw. I have a responsibility to employ Santi, because not only is he like the best artist I know, but he's the best dude I know.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
like he's Buddhist, he's hella chill, he's like all Zen and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know, man. You're like, he's the exact opposite of me. I'm like a fucking mess. And he's just like cool. Um, but and then Arnaldo, same thing. We worked on Jenny together. He worked on the automaton and fully painted the whole thing, and just got better and better as the book progresses. Like it's just all things hit on this one, I think.
That is cool. You know what that story is similar to, Dave? James Tynion and oh my God, Martin Simmons, they do the Department of Truth. And
Yeah.
James told Martin, like, when he like reached out, and he was like, I know you don't really draw like this, but can you? and Martin like figured it out, and and the Department of Truth is what it is now. But like James like said that he was like, I was that asshole who was like, can you draw totally different for me?
Well, and
And
that
it
book is
worked
like
out.
so like Bill Sienkiewicz. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so very much like the stuff that I love about Bill's work. And when I first got that book, I'm like, how could this book not be a success? It's just that's a book that hits on pretty much every level. Dude,
Yeah.
it is so fucking good. I can see how it wouldn't hit with certain people. But if you look at it from a strictly like creative standpoint, you're like, man, just high concept all day,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, dialogue's great, and it's got layers and layers and layers. It's so rad.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're cool dudes. But yeah, it's long as I just think it's a cool thing for um artists do that themselves, right? Artists should strive to get themselves out of their comfort zones and experiment and take risks. I think when you have a creative team working together, doing that for each other, like you've mentioned, is like happening now in the automaton, and now you're thinking that too. You're like, what else can I do? What else can I make cool for some? And cool for you too, right? You're still writing this book, but it's this is like a new thought in your head now, like, where can we take Santi's art for like the next project? That's exciting to like
yeah,
to think about, and that's, I think that's how these creative teams stick together, right? Because like good things happen to good people, right? People end up getting noticed. You start making cool books, people are going to see it. And then when your artists get jobs, like, you want them to take them, but right, like you also want to be able to keep working with them, right? So when you establish these bonds and you make these bangers with these creatives and you know you keep the dream team together, I think that helps because in the when they start getting more work and things do get busy, then he's always going to be like, no, but like I'm always back for a Dave book, right? And like, you want that cohesiveness.
Well, there are, I think I have a book that I did years and years and years ago. It was like a real indie book I did with my buddy Daniel Logan, and we cut our teeth on it. He wound up working on, he's like one of those Marvel trading card artists and stuff, and he doesn't really do comics that much, but he worked on like the Puppet Master stuff with us. Um, but the book is really raw. It's so old. It's very raw. I'm almost thinking that I want to redo it in the style of the automaton because I think it would work really, really well.
Mm.
But I have to talk to Daniel about that. But on top of that, I've got another project that I think Santi and I and Arnaldo can work on. But I've got to convince my wife. She's like my biggest critic, and she's like, "Nah, I don't like it." But it's all about divorce, and like coming from a product of my parents separating and getting back together and then separating. Now they're back
Mm.
together because they're just old. But like that, and I was previously divorced as well. Like my wife, I proposed to my first wife at Disneyland on the Peter Pan ride,
Oh,
flying
really?
over the city, and I'm like, "Are you thinking happy thoughts?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like I pulled the ring out and did that, real fucking suave, right? But my forever wife, Megan, my I don't want to say current wife, but you know what I mean? That means that there's going to be like one
There
in the
might be a
future,
next
might
one.
be
Yeah.
another. But my forever wife, Megan, she would never go to Disneyland with me for that very reason. And then she finally went with me, and she was like, "I get it now. I get how overjoyed you are and how much of a kid you are when you're in the park." And she loves seeing me like that. And so like we go as often as we possibly can.
Nice.
Um,
I was about to say
but
because I've seen you go like you guys have posted pictures like when the new Star Wars cantina and stuff opened and you guys went. I'm pretty sure like you like
yeah,
posted because
yeah.
I was like
Well,
living vicariously through you because I still haven't. I had a great childhood. I have a cool family. I'm very lucky, but we did not. My sister and I we didn't get to go to Disney World, right? Like we my parents we our vacations sometimes like we'd go stay at like a and I know some people be like, well, this is sad, but it was fun. We'd go stay at like a hotel, right? That had like an indoor pool and an arcade and
sure.
go out to eat, right? We do that for a weekend and go and then usually my parents would let us bring like a friend too. So like we'd eat, my sister and I would bring a friend, we'd go stay at a hotel, go have a nice dinner, eat, play, swim, and it was fun for us, but we just never it was never like, hey, we're flying to Disneyland, we're going this, so we just didn't get to do that. And so I still like even today, like some people tell me they're like, oh, it's not, and I'm like, when you've never been, and they keep like, now you can go to Star Wars, now you go to the Avengers Academy, now you can see fucking Spider-Man swinging around the park. Like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I want to go bad. Like, I
Well,
still
I'll
want
tell
to
you,
go.
just make plans for next year. I'm probably going to go, and if you do decide you want to go, let me know. So the only reason I didn't go to WonderCon this year was because it was the same weekend as Puerto Rico Comic Con, and
Mm,
I try to go to that show as often as possible. The fans in Puerto Rico are amazing, and just their readers, which I friggin' love.
yeah,
Um, they're just you go to some cons and they're like there's just people there to see Hayden Christensen or Hayden Panettiere or any of the
yeah,
Haydens, and you're like, that's fine, but the local artists, or hell, the people that are traveling in,
yeah.
it's like there's an expense attached to that. And so like I will always support comic book people way more than I will try to get an
Hmm.
autograph. And that's not a lecture by any means. Like a lot of people that go to these cons don't read comics. Um, but WonderCon's a good show. It's run by the same people that do San Diego. It's lower in scope. It's still really big, and it's right across the street from Disneyland. Every time I do that show, I stay an extra day or two so I can go to Disneyland.
Nice.
Last time I did it, Jason Martin and I did it. He does the Pulp Girl stuff. He's got like the oh God, why am I? Princess Star Thief and Swiss Army Woman and all this stuff. Really good grindhouse, like good girl, bad girl books. But like a dear friend of mine, and we ran through that park. We walked 20 miles in one day,
Whoa.
like just going for it. And he was like, I don't want to ever go to Disneyland with you again. I'm sore. And I'm like, sorry, but that's just the way I roll, man. I know how to cut through traffic in Disneyland to get to where we need to go. You know?
Nice.
Yeah, when we were at Disney World, Santi and I, like like I said, he'd never been, and he really wanted to see the fireworks. And the fireworks, I'm like, fireworks. I don't really care about fireworks. I've seen them, you know, but he really wanted to see it because it was his first time. So we had these paid fast passes, you know, no, it wasn't paid. It was like those virtual queues that you can like put your name in, and then they call your number when it's ready, right? And they're like, your number's gonna be ready at like 8 o'clock for the Star Wars ride. And I'm like, that's exactly when the fireworks are. I went to customer service. They rearranged my entire schedule because they knew that Santi had never been there and he only had a day there. And they gave us like fast passes to all the rides.
Oh,
And
that's
we
so
were like,
cool.
that's what Disneyland is. That's what Disney World is. They want you to be happy. Like, yes, I get it. It's a corporate fucking environment. Yes, the prices keep getting raised. Yes, you know, they're charging extra for extra shit these days. But at the end of the day, the people that work there, they're like joy givers. If you see an employee with a bad attitude, it's a very rare day. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it's kind of crazy. So I mean that's why I love it. Like I'm always upbeat, and it's the most upbeat place. So like imagine me in the most upbeat place on the planet. You're like, oh god, this guy. It's like I'm sweating sugar. It's crazy, you know.
That
But
does that does sound pretty awesome. Speaking of awesome, I know it's Sunday and I'll catch you for a while, but I do want real quick. I do want to touch on you. You mentioned our buddy Cyrus a couple times, and there's this the notion of this haunted taxi that so many people love and have come to you at cons, and you are you're in a good place with Cyrus again, right? He's
finally,
back home. If you want to re-release it, you can. If you want to make more, you can't, right? Like, so how's that feel? Because I know that, I mean, with that publisher, there was a lot going on with a lot of people for a while, but I know that particular title made that whole situation way worse than, you know. So like, how are things? How that happened? Like, what you know what? Tell me the
so yeah,
details.
so I signed a contract saying I couldn't talk about certain specific things, but
Okay.
I can tell you that um, the publisher um, quoted me a price on how much it was going to cost to get it back.
Mm,
And it was literally like, you have to buy all the inventory. And
mm,
while I can't tell you what that inventory number was, it was substantial. But I had gotten my bonus from, you know, like my holiday bonus. We started talking about it. I was like, you know what? This bonus money, I'm like, it's just extra money. I don't know. You know, I would put it in savings, you know, but my wife was like, that's the one book that you care about, like that you really, really, really care about. Yes, I love Double Jumpers, by the way. I think that's like, well, that's probably like my cleverest book. But like I finished that book. I did 2 volumes. I knew it was gonna be 2 volumes and it's done. Right.
mm.
So there wasn't a need to make more. Like I do feel bummed that I can't get back to Infinite Seven because that book, it needs a third volume and I left it on a stupid cliffhanger. But with Cyrus Perkins, I knew what I was going to do and I knew exactly where I was going with that book. And I even announced in the back of that trade paperback that the sequel was coming. I think it was like 2016 or 17, and the book came out in 2015. And the publisher was like, it wasn't successful enough for us to do a sequel, so we're going to pass on that. But then they also kept my rights in perpetuity, which you know that's the main thing that every creator has a problem with. So they made me an offer. I took the offer. I bought all the books back, and then as Diamond was shipping it to me, they lost 3/4 of the order. It just like it was supposed to be pallet. Somewhere along the lines, the pallet got split between 2 pallets so they could ship it, and I got a pallet with like 200 books on it, and I was like, "Well, where are the rest of these books?" And the driver's like, "It must be coming later." It never showed up, so I contacted Diamond, and they refunded all my money. So,
Whoa.
karmically speaking, I did things the right way and I got 200 books. I paid for those 200 books, but
Yeah.
then I got the refund on the rest. So it worked out really, really well. I was like, this couldn't have gone better. So, you know, at that point, it was not this previous January, the January before that. Then it was find an artist. How are you going to find an artist for this? I've had so many near misses
Mm.
The designer that was working on the automaton really wanted to do Cyrus Perkins, and she did a bunch of design work for it, paid her outright for that. And then her sequentials, just again, it wasn't what I needed. Like the style that she was using in the designs wasn't the style that was being applied to the pages. So it just was like, do I really want to fight this uphill battle? No, I don't. So, we sort of parted ways, but amicably. And then again, I'm at MegaCon this year, 6 months ago, and this woman comes by the table, and I just think she's flirting with Santi. I have no idea. And I was like, "What was that about, Santi?" And he was like, "No, no, 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 no." He was like, "She's an artist too, and she wanted to connect in that regard." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Show me your stuff." And it was very reminiscent, or at least I saw the spark that could have been Cyrus Perkins. And so I sent the book to her, and I reached out to her that day. I said, "Hey, give me her Instagram. I'll message her." So we were messaging throughout the convention. When I got home, I sent her Cyrus Perkins, and she was like, "Yes, please." And then she started sending designs in, and I was like, "Oh yeah, here we are. We're back."
Awesome.
And so the first issue, I have it on my screen below. I have my Cintiq set up below the screen, but I'm working on sizing pages now. And man, so we got the first issue's already done. Second issue is about 8 pages in.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
it's coming along great. It's going to be something that it's very, very different from the first one. But if you read the first one again, you'll be like, wait a second, it was all there. It's just 10 years later. Like there are hints to a larger story that a lot of people probably have forgotten. So I think Cyrus Perkins is going to be a different experience for a lot of people now. And I think that, I'm talking to my manager friend out there in Hollywood, and he was like, "Well, now that you've got it back," he's like, "Let's go find a publisher to get both done again." Um, so that's sort of the idea. I'm not sure how it's going to happen. It may be a Kickstarter, um, but it's the 10th anniversary next year, so it's got to happen in 2025. You know,
That's
um,
exciting.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and the way Sasha's working, the artist, she's fast. She's fast. I mean, like not like so fast that I'm going to be broke every week, but like fast, like she can get like 4 or 5 pages done a week.
Wow.
And that's all you can expect from artists not these days. I don't want to say these days, like back in my day, but like I wouldn't want someone to draw more than 3 to 5 pages a week because it means that they're jamming through it. Like no one looks
Hmm.
that fast. Someone gives you 10 pages a week, you're like, wait a second. Is AI, what is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
like I would want someone to spend, like I want them to like love it like I love it, right? Ideally, I know it's not always going to be like that, but you want them to like spend time on the page, spend time in a panel, like like puts put some of their own blood, sweat, and tears. Like, ideally, that's what you want. So yeah, if you get too much production too fast, you're worried about like it's like too mechanical, not enough, maybe not, and maybe they're just I joke, but a machine. But yeah, that's something you got to worry about now too. Is it AI? Is this person even really drawing it? How many fingers are on every character? I got to go look now. How many teeth are in every
that
mouth? Like
that happens a lot with cover artists these days.
I'm
Like,
seeing it. Like
yeah,
everybody is now. They're getting because uh they're not playing around. They're calling these, and I think they should. I think an artist should say, "Hey, I'm doing AI art, and if you want to pay for it, you can." But if people are getting like DC and Big Two work, and there's a lot of hungry artists that could really use those paychecks and that experience and that notch on their resume, and that credit on their belt, and they're actually putting in the work. Like I do. I think those people should get opportunities. But again, if someone is, just be honest, like I'm using AI art, I'm using an AI template that I manipulate or whatever, like because some of this stuff is obviously different. They're using AI, but they're not just typing like draw me Superman, make it look cool. Other things are going on there, right? But be honest, like let people know, and then DC, Marvel, Boom, whoever, they can come out and be like, we still like that cover, we'll give it a shot. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Happened with
well,
Penthouse, the new Penthouse comic accidentally did a AI cover in the same issue that they did.
accidentally.
Well, that's what they said. They said they didn't know that it was AI until afterwards, and it had already like gone into production. But in that, it was in the first issue of Penthouse, and in that, and this is the Penthouse comics, not the Penthouse, but like in that first issue, there's an editorial on AI and about how it's like bad for the comic industry.
The good news is comics do take time. So it starts with your concept. And if you believe in that, you should have enough runway to get the plane to take off, right? You just got to work at it and work at it, work at it. Like I don't start putting pen to paper on a script until I know the characters, until I know exactly what's going to happen,
Oh
because,
wow.
or maybe not even what I know what the plot beats are going to be, but a lot of times I obsess over these characters so much that they start informing the story. And so I get all these happy little surprises. Like I didn't realize that Felix Fable was my dead gay Uncle Joe,
Mm.
until I got to a certain point in it where he talks about his life choices and how he's hiding, he's still hiding in plain sight. I put that line in there, and I didn't out him in the book. It's something that's inferred, right? Um, he's developing a relationship with Jeannie, who's the caricature artist who has come from a background where her parents don't respect her choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to draw that back to Felix and to my Uncle Joe. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he's gay. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, now I can bring even more of my life into this because of my Uncle Joe. And now I can end this in a way that I feel he would have wanted his story to end,
That's
like,
dope.
so when you read that last page, three fucking lines of dialogue in it, and I'm like, nailed it. That's it. That's the last page. And when I was done writing it, I realized that that part of the job was done. Done. No more rewriting. Nothing. Like you stuck the emotional landing. You know, um, that's a really good feeling. It's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen all the time, you know, and that's what I want to be known for, right? Like emotional storytelling, something that you're going to take um, something away from, and sometimes that's not superhero comics. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I think the automaton is eventually going to go to a publisher. I think it's probably going to get doled out as issues and then a softcover trade paperback.
Mm.
And knowing that about this book, I thought my ultimate goal is a hardcover. There's no guarantee that any publisher is going to give me a hardcover.
Unless you
So
do it
I'll
yourself, yeah.
do it myself and then get it out there at a cheaper price point for people that want single issues or people that want a soft cover for $15 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? But I think $25 is a good amount for a hardcover.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that for Kickstarter hardcover, $25, absolutely very fair price. Your tiers, the bonus stuff you can get, the signed editions, the special cover, all of that is super super fair price. So again, folks, like for those of you that are listening, in the description and everything on the YouTube page, like I'll have links to the Kickstarter. We'll make it real easy to find it. You can also follow Dave. Dave's been real great about telling the world about it on his social medias. As if you're a creator, watch what he's doing, because you don't just put out a Kickstarter and sit there and wait for it to the numbers to roll in. There's some hustling involved, right? So you follow Dave. He's hustling. He's talking about it. He's doing a lot of shows. And so hopefully you catch him on mine, but if not, you catch him on somebody's and get wind of the Automaton, because it's a really good book. I had a great time reading it. I was very, very excited that Dave sent me the final chapter this morning, that I get to, I get to read that. It's very, I'm super stoked to see how this whodunit mystery, winds up, because you've been very careful in it so far. There's like ideas, but really I have no idea really what's going on. If there's like I said, there's a nefariousness like under the seams in between the panels that I'm really excited to unravel. So yeah, this is a cool book, folks. You really need to check it out. And Santi's art, I've been a fan of for a real long time, but yeah, it's these pages are special. The colors look amazing. Dave's lettering's on point. Cool goodies you can get. Get the hardcover before it goes to a publisher. Like, do it now. Why wait? Eat a Snickers.
And Blake, always a pleasure. I always appreciate you, man. And I've been on the tour, the press tour for a few weeks now, and I gotta say, this has been the most original and in-depth one that we've done. We meandered a lot through it, but but all great conversations. Like
Yeah.
you know, look, really, honestly, we went to places I didn't think we were going to go, and I'm glad we did, for sure.
Real quick though, because I mentioned that people need to follow you because you've been real good about posting what you're doing with automaton and stuff. Automaton, I can't. It's one of those words that I'm like every time I say it, I'm like you're gonna say it wrong. I don't, and it's not a complex word. It's just odd.
It's
Um,
you know what it is it's a combination of too many words. Like how many words can you extrapolate from the automaton? And then it just becomes this thing that like it's marbles in your mouth. Trust me, when I originally it was going to be called the animatronic or
okay.
animatronic. And animatronic is TM fucking Disney. So I
Oh,
couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, what's the okay, it's automaton, which is it exactly works for what it is. But you know, again, animatronic just has it rolls off the tongue,
yeah.
right? Good job, Disney.
That R helps it.
Yeah, totally, totally.
But where's the best places to keep track of you? I don't know if you got like a mailing list or anything these days you want to shout
You
out or
know, yeah, you can subscribe to like my web yeah, on my website. It's hellbrain.com, and that's basically the hub for everything that I do, including all of the work I do with other publishers too. But there are some self-published books in there. Um, you know, we'll see if Cyrus Perkins will be self-published next year. Um, but it's just hellbrain.com, and then at Dave Dwonch. Last name is Dwonch, and Dave is just Dave. So at Dave Dwonch everywhere on the socials. And then look in, I believe it's December. It could be a little bit later, but look for my latest book from Titan, which it should be announced very soon. It's called The Loose End. It's another crime noir survival buddy comedy thing
all
that's
right.
set in a weird alternate Miramax kind of movie timeline. So it's real fucked up, and it's really really fun. Like it should be a good one. I think they loved it, and it'll be part of their hard case crime line of books. And
Hell yeah, I like that stuff. What is it? I got it right here. Gun Honey.
Gun
I
Honey,
like gun,
yeah,
like I know what it is, right? But it's also it's fun, punchy, poppy noir, right? And it's gorgeous art, right? And like everybody's everybody loves to draw that cake for those covers. So like you're getting like top comic book like artists that want to do covers for this
yeah.
sexy noir book. Anyways, I know some people they don't talk bad about it because it's a successful book, but they're it's they some people have their thoughts about not safe for work titles and stuff, but it is that, but it's good story, good action, and good dialogue and good writing. So like
I'll tell you
I do
too.
like what Titan does these
The
days.
Titan people have been really, really great too. Like I did a book, a video game tie-in book with them a couple years ago. So we made that connection. You never know who you're going to make connections with when you're doing licensed properties like that. But but yeah, we stayed tight, we stayed friends, and when it was time to pitch this book out, um, Titan was like my number one because I had such a great experience there. So yeah, I mean, yeah, check that out. But definitely check out the Automaton on Kickstarter now. The first issue's free, and definitely support it because I think it's worthy.
Hell yeah, it's worthy. Support indie comics. And but yeah, like for real, anything does. I almost said Dave Dwonch, but I meant Dave does. Anything Dave does. I don't know. You can use that maybe for marketing
Sure,
later, Dave. I don't know.
I'm gonna make a shirt. I'm gonna just Dave
Dave
was
was.
comics. Yeah, there it is.
All right, but no, like everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Dave, thank you so much for hanging out with me on a Sunday. Love more, hate less, read comics. You know how we do things here. We'll be back with more great interviews. Get to Kickstarter, check out the Automaton, get to Titan, check out Dave's other books. He's done cool stuff at Dark Horse. If you followed me for a while, you know I love Jenny Zero. And I have a pull quote on volume 2, which is dope. But no, like Dave's always doing cool books. Follow him, buy his stuff, read his stuff, and I am so excited that Cyrus, I can't wait to see what you've been planning, thinking, and what you do with Mr. Perkins next year, man.
Well, you know,
You're gonna have
I'm
to come back. I will make you come back for that announcement or whatever you do. Like we got to have an in-depth haunted
for
taxi
sure,
cab
and you
special.
know, like the first issue's done. I've just got to like get it colored and lettered, and I'm coloring it and lettering it myself. So it may take a little bit longer, but yeah, when I get it ready, you'll be the first person to have it.
Yes, awesome, awesome. Well, Dave, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for listening. I will see you soon. Have a great week, day, whenever the hell you listen to this. I don't care. You know I love you.